Alright, hey there. It is Sunday, or Dom, as we say in French, D-O-M. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I should work on it. Sunday, April 21st, and I'm here at the Manassas National Battlefield, also known as the location for the Battle of Bull Run, which was so good they repeated it. And it's in the flight path for Dulles Airport. The Battle of Bull Run Part 1 and Part 2. So good. And this is Henry Hill. We'll find out about some of the battles that took place here. Guns up on that ridge. Lovely fence line. Hey, look at that car. That's nice. And the Visitor Center. So I'm going to go in here and check it out. Henry Hill, Battle of Bull Run, Part 1 and Part 2. Okay, boys, let me see if I can do the Battle of Bull Run justice. I'll see if I can do it right. It is April 21st, and like all of the United States, I think the biting gnats are out on this lovely spring day. It's a beautiful sky, the Visitor Center, some of the different place points. That you see right there is a statue of Stonewall Jackson sitting on his horse. It's a statue, not an actual point. I'm going to talk about some of what went on here. This tree line you see in the distance here, back behind the tree line, is the river called Bull Run. Bull Run was an integral part to this battle. This is the first battle of Bull Run, and the first battle, the true battle of the Civil War. Confederate troops had amassed on this side, and more were coming. Union troops were amassing on the other side of Bull Run. The generals for the Confederate wanted to make sure that the Union troops weren't able to cross the Bull Run, that river. So they the generals amassed their troops in a 7-mile stretch along the Bull Run River. It was strategically picked because much of the banks along the Bull River are very steep. There was only a few crossing points, and the Union's army made sure that they had those points checked. Further north from here, which is out in this direction, there was a stone bridge, oddly enough called the Stone Bridge. And it was being guarded by a colonel, I believe, and about 2,000 troops. The Union Army knew they had to flank, or tried to flank, go around the amassed Confederate troops along the Bull Run River. And they headed north, trying to find a place to cross. They passed Stone Bridge and eventually did find a place to cross. The commander that was assigned Stone Bridge was told, whatever you do, don't give up. Don't let anybody cross Stone Bridge. Well, by the time he realized it, it was too late, that he had been outflanked. The Union had gone further upriver, north, and crossed, and were coming in behind him. So instead of abandoning the bridge like he was ordered specifically to protect, he took just part of his troops and headed up to meet the Union, this Union crossing, and they came in and they met. Yeah, that was a biting gnat on my hand. Met right out on that hillside. You can see far distance past the house, past the tree, on that hillside. He knew, they knew, that there were more Confederate troops coming, that all he had to do was slow them down. And he did that. Slowed them down long enough. They were, of course, defeated. He retreated. And, but, like I said, there were more Confederate troops on their way. They were being supplemented. Huge numbers were arriving. They came up to this point. The Union generals started celebrating victory. the Confederates fell back into this tree line. One of the mistakes they think they made was there was a 2-hour lull in the battle where the Union kind of gave their guys a rest and were celebrating, thinking they had won, that it was over. And that was a mistake. Now the Confederates were amassed on this side of the Bull Run River. Once again, 2/3 of the Union troops sat waiting on the east side of the Bull Run River and actually never were involved in the conflict. They were designed to protect Washington. They weren't going to engage in this battle. That was unless the battle went on. During the 2-hour lull, the Confederates were able to build up their troops. Another mistake, they had train-specific artillery commanders, and they were told to bring their cannons up to what is, you can't see them, they're right behind that purple tour bus there and the building. And they brought up, I think it was 14 of their cannons up onto open ground without infantry support, which is a terrible mistake. But they were ordered to do it. They didn't want to do it. One of the two commanders of the artillery, these cannons, he saw that the Union, you can see those cannons set up along the wood line there, that he could possibly outflank them. So he brought up two, pulled out from the other ones and brought up these two cannons and set up to try to have free reign over the Confederates, which are now down in this wood line and amassing by the minute and by the hour, increasing their numbers. So once they set up here, and I guess before they could even start their volleys, you see that fence line over there. Out of the woods came a group of soldiers that at first they didn't know who they were. There were many different uniforms worn here. These soldiers had blue on, but they were Confederate soldiers, as a matter of fact. And within a very short time, this artillery point of two cannons, undefended by ground forces, was wiped out. This group that came in, and it was evidently a Virginia regiment, this group came in and took over the cannons, of course, and turned them back onto the Union troops. Then the battle got really ugly, if it wasn't ugly before. The Confederates formed a line, pulled their cannons back into the woods, formed a line all the way across the wood line you see there, and came up on this hill. Down on the other side of this building, and where that tour bus is and things, there is that's where the Union soldiers stayed. The cannons, like they said, were left atop the hill, 8 of them, and the battle went on for hours, back and forth. The Confederate coming up, the Union coming up, and the cannons actually changed hands quite a few times in the battle. Eventually, though, this battle was won by the Confederates. The Union troops fled the same way they came. They marched back across that field and back past Stone Bridge, crossed Bull Run, and I don't know if the opposite of a victory march, they went back to Washington badly defeated. Quite a number of Americans died here for the North and the South. The monument, the Stonewall, this is where he got his name. One of the generals pointed him out and said, "Look at him, they're standing up there like a stone wall." So, that's where the nickname came from, Stonewall Jackson. Head over that way, do some footage of that statue. But quite an amazing story. Quite battlefield strategy with the flanking and the straight-on forces. My personal opinion is this is what turned it. You know, the different mistakes were made, flanking maneuvers, all of those things. But on his own, when that commander decided to bring these two cannons over here to the side, a great idea by itself because he could outflank. He didn't bring any troops with him. He didn't bring any ground forces. So they were, other than these cannons, really unprotected. And you could see that fence line right over there. That's maybe 75 yards. Those Virginia troops come up out of the wood line and just wiped them out, basically. Took over the guns. It's just what I think the turning point was. You know, people might believe that it was a pause or size or maneuvering, but this seemed to be, you know, the point. All right, that's long enough. Okay, this is, there's the cannons that I was looking at earlier, the fence line that the Virginians came up through. This is the spot where General Bernard B. of South Carolina died. He was the one that gave more or less Jackson, General Jackson, he was a colonel I believe back then, his nickname. Get up there, there stands Jackson like a stone wall, rally behind the Virginians. So this is the actual spot where he was killed. And you know, the real truth is that Stonewall Jackson didn't have that name, and he didn't get it from this site, or this is where it started. But famous name that everybody uses. There stands Jackson like a stone wall. And a Harlequin Great Dane.
Yeah.
They're vicious, aren't they?
Yeah.
How's that, boys? Okay, it's the afternoon, and I thought I'd make one more. This is kind of the, I guess, the center point to all the action. I was looking at that nice big jet flying out there. It's flying very slow, very large jet. I guess it's coming in because, if I'm not mistaken, the Dulles Airport is out that way. Okay. If you look out between those cars, you can see right above my finger the cannon that was part of the two that were swung around to the side, and for me, for most people, it's the turning point of this, the first battle of Bull Run. There's the statue of who would become Stonewall Jackson. There are a lot of swallows flying out here. You can see the cannon line in the distance for the Confederate forces. These are some of the fields where the battle was fought. This is the top of the hill that they fought so violently for. These are the cannons that were brought in by the Union, and the battle that was vicious here and went back and forth. Those cannons were controlled by the Union forces, then the Confederate forces, and back and forth. That's a replacement of the house that was kind of the center point of what happened here. Over on the far past the house on the far hillside is kind of where the Union forces came in and pushed their way up. The Confederate forces went back behind that wood line in retreat, which is where Bull Run is on the other side, which is kind of interesting. You would think they had them trapped in there because there were many Union forces on the other side of the Bull Run River. They never crossed, though. They never engaged in the battle. It would have been quite different had they. The monument you see is was constructed by the Union Army, what they considered the U.S. government, to recognize the soldiers that lost their lives there. That was put up there like 6 months after the battle, so it's been there quite a while. It's a famous cemetery you see right there. The lady that lived in that house that died, she was the only civilian casualty of this war, the first one. The second Battle of Bull Run was also victorious for the South, the Confederates. Lee was a very smart general. He came in and won it. Anyway, kind of a center point to the whole battle here, kind of in the middle. I'm going to go and see if I can spot the famous stone bridge. The original stone bridge was destroyed by the Confederates, so the Union troops couldn't get back into Virginia, and it was rebuilt later, so we'll see. Anyway, it's been a lovely day. Okay, this is the top of Buck Hill, and from the video earlier, I was down there. This is where the first battle, the first conflict involving the first Battle of Bull Run occurred, and the troops, the Confederate troops that were down this way guarding the bridge, came back up, got word that Union troops had, over in the far distance is Bull Run, and the Union troops had circled around, crossed Bull Run, and come up this way, as the Confederate troops had all of the Bull Run for several miles blocked. So this leader with his 900 came up here to meet the Union troops and maybe beat them back. It was kind of hopeless. He wasn't going to. There was, I think, 13,000 of them against his 900. But he did enough. He slowed them down enough that by the time they pushed him down this hill past that house, which was an important place in the second Battle of Bull Run, and up the hill, the leader of the Union troops kind of celebrated for the next 2 hours, thought it was an easy victory, and didn't completely finish off the, you've heard the story. So anyway, this is a key part. They held them long enough that Confederate troops were able to come in and do it. There's a nice little white car down there. So that's the view. There's cannons that we saw earlier, and I'm going to go down this way to see if I can find the rebuilt stone, famous stone bridge, and that'll be the end of it. So, Battle of Bull Run. I'm off. Alright, I made it. Here it is. Last part of my tour, the famous stone bridge. And this is the stone bridge rebuilt. I have no doubt that some of this